The four main parties at Queen's Park have all appointed election chairs to oversee the preparations for the next election campaign. But there's just one problem. No one knows when that campaign will happen. Could happen over the upcoming provincial budget, or not. Could happen this fall, or not. How do you plan for something whose date remains a mystery? Let's find out. From Tim Murphy, co-chair of the Ontario Liberal election campaign. Ian Robertson, performing the same role for the Ontario Tories. Nathan Shan, campaign co-chair for the Ontario NDP. And Catherine Atchison, chair of the Green Party's campaign. And it's good to have all four of you around our table so we can find out all your secrets.
No problem.
Oh, everybody got quiet all of a sudden. Okay. First of all, I think people need to understand that the job of an election chair or co-chair is not your real job. You all have real jobs. Catherine, what's your real job?
I'm an English professor at the University of Waterloo, Steve.
That sounds like a full-time job.
It's a full-time, demanding, and very pleasant job.
Very pleasant. Okay. Tim, what's your real job?
So I practice law at Macmillan LLP, and that is, it's about 2 jobs.
That's 2 jobs already. Okay. Ian?
I've been lucky. I've been able to make a career out of my hobby. So I was Tim Hudak's chief of staff until a couple months ago when I took a step down to run the campaign.
So you've been seconded from that to the campaign?
From the from the Ontario Legislature over to the campaign.
So that's your full-time job now?
Full-time job. Ready to go.
Ready to go.
Whenever it might happen.
Nathan?
Well, I manage a not-for-profit agency that deals with research, advocacy, and so on.
What's it called?
It's called CASA, Council of Agencies Serving South Asians.
And that's in Toronto?
Yeah, it's in Toronto. It's an Ontario organization.
Is it a full-time job?
Yeah, it's a full-time job.
Okay, so you are all, 3 of the 4 of you are taking, you have 2 jobs, so this is going to be your 3rd. And anyway, here we go. Do you have to take a leave of absence from what you're doing now in order to become the Green Party election chair?
Not if you're not crazy.
Okay.
No, it's a volunteer position. That I was the chair of the National Campaign Committee for the Green Party of Canada for 2 years, and it's a job that I can do in my volunteer hours.
Gotcha.
The ones before 7 in the morning and the ones after 7 in the evening.
Gotcha. Tim, did the law firm say to you, you got to take a leave of absence if you want to do this, or how do they handle it?
No, not at all. I mean, it's the same thing. I'm sure it's true for Nathan, is that it's additive. So you do it, in and around the other full-time duties that you have. I mean, obviously, once and if a campaign happens, there'll be a certain degree of, frankly, probably taking your holiday time to go help out in the campaign on a more full-time basis. But other than that, it's, I mean, one of the good things about a lawyer to a certain extent is you are to some degree a manager of your own time, so you can schedule meetings, but it is in effect a second full-time job. And so unsurprisingly, your family and friends suffer a bit because of it, but that's the sacrifice I guess each of these people are, on behalf of their own parties, taking, for the public good that they're all engaged in.
What have you told your agency about?
Well, when the writ drops, it probably needs me to take time off. It's not seen as a leave of absence. I could use my, my holidays, vacations, and so on, or take time unpaid leave of absence as well. But when the writ drops, the demand of the work itself is high enough that it would be hard to manage both. So the agency is aware of that.
Okay. Ian, I know how you got your job. You were the chief of staff to the leader, and the leader said, I need you to do this, so over you went.
Exactly.
Is it your experience that you've got to have that kind of super up-close and personal relationship with the leader in order to have that leader's confidence to do this job?
Well, the great thing about working for a leader like Tim Hudak is there's an incredible passion and a tremendous sense of purpose in the type of leader he is, where I think a lot of our staff and a lot of the team, and you'll see this with the candidates we've recruited, are drawn to him and want to work hard for him. He could ask me to pretty much do anything, and I'd be willing to do it for him.
Legal, I assume you mean.
Legal things, yeah.
Legal things, yeah.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is if you're spending time doing anything else other than this right now, you're missing the opportunity to be successful for the leader and to turn the province around. So I'm excited to do it, and like I said, it's an opportunity to make a living out of my hobby.
Good to see the spin started early.
Well, now you did not support Kathleen Wynne in her leadership bid.
Correct.
And yet here you are as campaign co-chair.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you apparently don't have to have a very close relationship with the leader to get the job.
Well, I think there's a couple things happening. I mean, as you well know, I've been a campaign co-chair before on behalf of the Liberal Party many years ago, and a past riding president, or past president of the party, and I think Kathleen has decided that she, and I think rightly so, much to her credit, that part of her job was to bring the party together after the process. She reached out very quickly and did that. And I think one of her great attributes is her authenticity, her ability to listen to other points of view, to bring people together. And we've seen that, in her efforts in the legislature and talking to both Tim Hudak and Andrea Horvath and trying to get their ideas on the table. It's a new way of doing things, and she is really skilled at it. And I think Ontarians are seeing something different and are liking what they see.
I see he started with the spin, but you caught up pretty quickly.
I try to. There's actually a variety of spins. There's the blind partisan spin.
Yes, fine, okay.
And there's real, honest sharing of a point of view.
Can you? I'm just ignoring all this. Can you put us in the room where, did she call you, or did
she did?
So it was over the phone.
Yeah.
And what did she say?
She just said, hi Tim. I was actually in my office on a Sunday, and phone rang and picked it up and said, "Is that Tim?" Said yes. Says, "Hi, it's Kathleen," and said, "We'd really love if you could come and help guide the campaign. I'd really appreciate it if you could be a co-chair." And I said yes right away.
You said yes right away?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we sat down a few times since then, had good long chats about her interests and directions. Because obviously, it varies depending on the campaign. But a co-chair is, it's a bit. Ian's a campaign manager, so there's a bit in that. If you're going to put it in a business context, you're going to have a CEO of a company, and then you've got a board. And the co-chair is kind of a board, so you're you're providing some strategic direction, some linkage to the leader. Maybe in the NDP case, you've got a union representation issue you're bringing to the table. So I think the value of those jobs are people who generally who have full-time and other jobs. They're bringing a perspective of the party, or in Deb Matthews' case, my co-chair of the caucus, but another perspective of the table to make sure that all the views are there. And I think. I think Kathleen's been doing a great job at bringing the party together and representing the new Ontario.
You're one of 3 for the NDP, right? Yes. So how did you get the gig?
Well, I was elected in the last convention as the president of the Ontario NDP.
But the president of the party
usually has one of the co-chair positions. It doesn't have to be. I come from a very strong community organizing background, and I also teach fundraising at college levels. So I have a background of both community organizing as well as fundraising. And Jill Bisson, who's veteran MPP from the north, is one of the co-chairs. And Darlene Lawson, who's actually the provincial secretary, who's like the CEO of the party, or the executive director of the party, is also one of the co-chairs. So all 3 of us bring a different perspective, different types of experiences, innovation, and creativity. But going back to my plug and my spin, it's important to have a good relationship, and I have a very strong working relationship with Andrea Horvath, who's actually the most popular leader, as you know, in Ontario, and has been proving that results and delivering results for Ontarians is the primary objective, right? So I think we are all in that same wavelength, so we work together. It's not just about elections, it's also about what we can deliver. As Tim said, it's almost like a collective effort. The chairs do not have extraordinary powers in this. We facilitate the conversations and provide strategic direction. The election planning committee itself is made of a large number of people from all sorts of professional and diverse personal backgrounds.
Have you done it before?
No, this is my first time.
This will be your first time?
EPC chair, yeah.
Okay, so Tim's done it before. This is your first.
First time.
First time running the show. What did you do the last time Tim was leader?
Last campaign, I had the privilege of spending 40 days on the bus with the leader, which is a fantastic experience. Tim and I were exchanging notes before. It's usually good to put on at least 20 pounds on the bus.
Okay, and is this your first time?
My first time as campaign chair?
Yeah.
No, I did that for the GPC as well for 2 years.
For the Ontario Party?
For the Ontario Party, yes.
Do you know Mike Schreiner well?
I know Mike Schreiner very well, and Mike is, I'm sure that Andrea is the most popular, but Mike is definitely the best leader of an Ontario political party. And
ever.
Has, no, not ever, just right now, and has genuinely offers Ontarians an opportunity to move forward in a more prosperous and sustainable future.
Did he ask you to do this job?
Yes, he did. After we initiated the strategy that elected Elizabeth May, and after that election and the debrief, I stepped down from my position there. I was elected to a position on the executive of the Green Party of Ontario at the last convention, and then I was asked to chair the election readiness team, which is in effect the co-chair, or sorry, the chair of the campaign. Yeah.
Ian, tell me this: you weren't the sort of campaign chairman last time, but you were on the bus and you went through the whole ordeal, as it were, and I wonder what the most important thing you learned that time was that you will bring to the job this time.
Absolutely. The biggest thing, the biggest realization coming out of the last campaign is we need to give people a reason to vote for us and not just ask them to vote against the other two parties. This time you'll see a very different campaign where Tim will lay out a plan and a vision for Ontario and ask people to get on board with that and vote for it. This won't be a campaign where we say vote against Kathleen Wynne and vote against Andrea. Sure, their ideas are wrong for the province. Sure, they don't think we have a spending problem, but this is all going to be about the plan that we put forward and asking people to support that.
Tim, you were, was it Dalton McGuinty's first campaign?
Correct.
1999.
1999.
So
and party president, actually.
And party president, too.
Yeah.
So what did you learn from the 99 experience, where you came second,
Yep.
a good second, but still second,
Yep.
that you would bring to this time?
Well, I think it's a couple things, one of which is just, it's equanimity sometimes, right? Because what you understand is, campaigns have ebbs and flows, and sometimes the job is actually not to overreact, right? Is to bring a little distance and judgment to the issues that are arising, be able to say, look, we don't need to, react in a particular way. And sometimes it's to say, yes, we really need to react to this, and bringing the judgment of experience to it. But I think for me, the lesson obviously is there is an opportunity to introduce your leader to the public in a way that's positive, or to have the other side introduce your leader in a way that's negative. And in '99, Mike Harris's campaign team introduced Dalton to the electorate instead of having us do it.
Which I think they said he's not up to the job.
Correct. And so the good, from us, from a political point of view, the good news is, we're getting the opportunity to introduce Kathleen Wynne to the Ontario electorate by virtue of the fact she's premier, and I think, she's doing an extraordinary job in that, in kind of being a breath of change, being actually what I think is most interesting about her is kind of the authenticity. Like, there's a real, when you look at her, she is different than Dalton, there's no question. She's prepared to listen, she's saying, what are the good ideas? Come, let's talk about what are the good ideas. It's a different approach. It's kind of a refreshing one. It's a little sort of post-partisan in a world where you hear a lot of partisanship, and you get that, especially in the United States, but we see it drifting into Canada and some of the approaches we're seeing out of the Conservatives. And she's sort of saying, no, let's not have a conversation that's about partisanship. Let's have a conversation about what's right about for Ontarians, and I think that's a refreshing approach.
Her policies look a lot like Dalton's.
I don't think that's true, actually. I think she's doing she's getting some great results with the teachers, putting behind her some of the issues that were real issues that Dalton was accumulating, and I think that's a good and refreshing approach. We're prepared to have progress, but not in a confrontational way, and that's a good thing.
I think, conversations are good, but we've been having conversations for a while as well, and sometimes regulated conversations are being called conversations as well. What we've been focusing on is that a year and a half ago that Ontarians went to the ballot box and decided this is how they would like the Ontario to be governed. And we would like to make the minority government work, and we would like to see results produced using our unique positions in the legislature that we have right now as a party. So we've been working hard on that. We've been not throwing up our hands and saying we're walking away from it. We've been working on specific results that we can deliver.
Okay.
And we're hoping.
I'm jumping in here because I'm getting you all off your talking points. We've got enough of this. I've got you here today. I've invited you here because I want to understand the experience of campaign co-chairs better, and not just have you do your talking points that the leaders do every day. So hang on, Nathan. Hang on.
One of the.
Nathan, if this is talking points, I'm cutting you off again. So go ahead.
No problem. Go ahead.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Thank you. I want to, since you're one of 3 campaign co-chairs, what happens if you 3 have a fundamental disagreement about how the leader ought to respond to a certain set of circumstances on the campaign trail? What do you do?
It's not the 3 of us. As I mentioned, it's a committee. There's a steering committee. Election planning committee is a steering committee. So we decide collectively. It's an inclusive process. It's not just the 3 of us decide. Just as Tim mentioned, it's more like a board of director chair positions, which actually facilitates and makes sure.
So if you have a disagreement, what do you do?
If you do have a disagreement, it's just just like how any other disagreement would be managed, is through having that debate inside, having that conversation, building consensus, and figuring out what most people prefer it to be, right?
But if you can't find consensus, do you ultimately go to Andrea Horwath and say, we're split, you decide?
Well, I think the leader has an important role to play in this, but it's not it is not just. I want to make sure that the EPC is accountable to both the party structure, which has memberships and ridings and so on, as well as the caucus is involved as part of the steering committee.
Well, it depends a little bit on the kind of issue. There are some, and all of us have been experienced in campaigns. So there are kinds of issues that come up in a campaign on the road where there's, the opposition has launched an attack or the media's got something and you have to respond. And advisors can disagree. At the end of the day, how that responds to a campaign is going to be a conversation between the leader and the core campaign team. And at the end of the day, the leader's going to make that call. If it's a more, if it's a broader issue that brings in broader accountabilities, for example, I've been part of a campaign where frankly the campaign has been unsuccessful and you're coming near the end and there's a real pressure to spend more and a party has a broader interest in saying no, hang on,
save our fire.
We've got an institution we have to be responsible for, and you have to set up accountabilities and mechanics in your party for that. So all that being said, I'm sure, and you were on the bus, you see the same thing. One of the common tensions in a campaign is the bus versus headquarters, right? You see that all the time, and that's just a reality. And you just got to make sure you have the right mechanics for communicating between those two. And at some point, you got to make that call.
It's a different kind of personality. The person on the bus is a different kind of personality than the person in headquarters, and they have different ways of operating and dealing with problems and conflicts. So that's part of the reason. So we have to learn how to communicate between those two factions. I think also I agree with what Tim is saying about the leadership. Also, Nathan, we normally come to a consensus-based decision and include the leader in that. But you never want to put the leader in a position where the leader can't speak the language with conviction, right? So the leader always has to be on side. And can we go back to the question of what we learned from the last elections?
But yours was federal, right?
So, well, yes, mine was federal. So what we learned from electing Elizabeth May is that it can be done and that it's a fantastic and wonderful thing to do.
If you pick the right riding.
We had to pick the right riding. That planning, this pertains to the topic of this conversation, which is pre-writ campaigning. We had to start that 2 years before the writ dropped, and we were very grateful that in the minority situation that the writ drop actually was delayed until we were fully integrated on the ground. And you have to work carefully on communications between in that period, because even your core membership isn't all that interested in hearing about electioneering. So you have to maintain other threads of conversation that express values and policies and community.
You've picked Guelph, right? Is the riding that you want to run him in this time?
That Mike is going to, yes. So what I learned from the last provincial election, which I wasn't involved in, is that we cannot give our voters permission to vote for other parties. So it's sort of a version of what Ian was saying about his situation. Strategic voting really hurt us terribly, and we need to define our policies and our approach and our people, put our people out in front.
That's a great contradiction from asking people to not run in certain
Well, the good news is this time, if you think Ontario is on the wrong track, you got two parties to pick from. If you think we're on the right track, then there's only one.
There's only one, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But Ian, tell again, we're trying to pull the curtain back a bit and find out what you do when the campaign happens. Do you tell, or will you tell Tim Hudak what to do?
I view my job as a facilitator of decisions. My job is to make sure that the leader has all the information at his disposal to make the best decisions possible. So Tim is has a master's of economics, smart guy, very analytical. I bring him a number of data points and recommendation if he asks for it in terms of the possible decisions that could be made. But at the end of the day, it's his call to make. I'm a big believer that you test ideas privately before they fail publicly. So we'll put the ideas through the ringer and bring them to him, talk to a lot of outside people, get outside advice on things. But at the end of the day, it's Tim's call in terms of what he wants to do.
Okay, but does it go like this? Does it say, Tim, we're having a problem with X, Y, and Z. I need your body in this riding, at this time, at this location, saying this. Is that how it works?
Nicely.
No, it's
nicely, yes, of course nicely. But
no, we sat down a year ago, mapped out a strategy that the leader has signed off on and helped design, and every day it's just a matter of how do we advance that ball one step at a time.
That was a way of saying yes, I think.
Well, I'm not sure. Here's another thing. Will any of you four have contact with each other once this mysterious election campaign happens?
I think the campaign directors usually have ways to connect, just like campaign managers in a particular riding. In a riding, all the campaign managers know who they are. If there's an issue, they connect. The campaign managers, we will have a campaign director who will be in charge of that particular role to connect.
But you won't be in touch with him during the campaign.
we might run into each other and say.
But it depends on the function, right? So, for example, the televised debate, right? So each party will have a representative in that discussion with various media, and so it depends on who that is. So you have discussions around those kinds of issues where you have some degree of common interest. You're going to have a discussion about it. So it can be everything from, you know, the debate to potentially, you know, if there's an electoral issue regarding the list, you'll have interaction around. So on issues like that, and you know, on election night when they have to figure out how to have their leaders come to our campaign headquarters, we'll have to talk over that.
Okay. Humor me here for a second, okay? You haven't nominated all your candidates for the next election yet, have you?
We've got 97 of them nominated.
97 out of 107?
Yeah.
So you got 10 vacancies still?
Yeah.
Okay. If you saw, for example, a lawyer in a snappy-looking suit here with a nice law firm, and you wanted to make the pitch to him as to why he should be a Tim Hudak candidate in the next election, which I guess is part of your job too, right?
Yep. Yep.
What would you say?
You know what? It's actually interesting. We don't have to do a lot of pitching. We've actually had a lot of people reaching out to us. One of the big things we found is you've seen a lot of the white papers Tim's been on to talk about our Paths to Prosperity series. What we found is tremendous momentum and a lot of excitement starting at the grassroots in the plan that we're going to be campaigning on and the vision that we're going to bring forward. So we've had a lot of people. Doug Ford today coming out and saying he's interested in running for us. So there's a lot of excitement from a lot of good people picking up the phone and calling us.
Would you want Doug Ford as a candidate? That's not a facetious question. I'm just asking.
Doug and Rob have done a great job at City Hall of reining in spending, and we'd be excited to have him as part of our team.
That's not why I ask. I ask because Doug has his strengths and weaknesses, and one of the weaknesses is that he has not exactly kept it a secret that he wants Tim Hudak's job someday. So I repeat, would you want Doug Ford as a candidate?
He's excited about joining the Tim Hudak team. We'd love to have him aboard.
Okay. Okay, I'll let it go. Yeah.
Yes, no, you're not going to get a real answer. So.
Okay, here we go. Now, you've got, I suppose, the toughest job of all when it comes to recruiting candidates because, rightly or wrongly, people see the Green Party as tough sell, as not necessarily the party that's going to be forming the next government. So when you're trying to recruit people to run in 107 ridings all over the province, which you've managed to do for the last several elections in a row, what's the pitch?
It's a tremendous experience. It's a way to understand your own community in a way that you have never done before, walking door to door, seeing everybody's gardens, talking to the neighbors. It's an extraordinary experience. And working with the kind of people who work on campaigns, they are a different breed, and it's a very exciting experience.
Does that work?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And it's a chance for people to take the next step in what their own path has been in terms of putting their values out on the front doorstep.
Because one thing that for these parties to ask people to run because they, you know, rightly or wrongly, they think they got a shot at winning. Your guys, almost 100% of them know they're not going to win. At least that's been the way it's been in the past. Is it a tougher sell, therefore?
Well, you get a range of different kinds of candidates. So I managed Cathy McClellan's campaign federally in 2008, and that was a very successful campaign. And she was a full-time candidate. She wanted to be the MP, and she would have, she would continue to contest elections as long as she was enjoying it until she became the MP. So that's somebody who understands that it may be not this election, but it may be in a couple of elections that we're going to secure success.
Okay, humor me, Tim. Same scenario here. You see a university professor. You think the Liberals have a good story to tell when it comes to post-secondary. So you call up Catherine and you say?
So it's, I think it's part of exactly what she said. So it's you got to, I mean, you're approaching people as human beings, as people who carry a political and policy and personal point of view, and you have to speak about all those things, and including their family contexts and their own career paths. I mean, ultimately, you have to say, look, this is, it is actually about service fundamentally, and about the notion of, you know, being part of the project of leading the province, of giving it an opportunity to be better because you're there. And you have, and whoever it is, and in this case, you know, you've got something to offer. You've got, obviously, as a person who's got an interest in the public policy agenda of this province, has a point of view, and in the Liberal Party will have an opportunity to actually put that point of view to work with a, you know, a great new leader who's actually really reaching out, you know, in a way that we haven't seen much in Ontario politics in a long time. Kind of a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, chance to be in government.
For every candidate that you make that pitch to, how many will you have to pitch before you find one who says yes?
Well, it depends on how good you are at narrowing your pitches to. But right. I mean, it varies, right? I mean, you know, it's part of it too is like, you know, a lot of people will, it'll depend on where they are in their own lives too. So, you know, you're going to talk to more people who say no than yes, but that's true of all the parties, right? And we're all going to have people who are excited by the leader and the opportunity in the election will come to each of the parties and say, Joyce, I really love what's happening. How can I be a part of it? Where's running? I'm getting those kind of calls as a co-chair. I mean, that's part of one of the functions that a co-chair can do is sort of that, you know, opportunity. It's a feed-in point for people who are interested, and I'm getting, you know, emails and calls, and you know, that's sort of my full-time job. I have to sneak out for coffee quite often now.
How many have you nominated so far?
I'm not going to tell you, but we are.
Service watch this show.
Yeah, we are in the process of, you know, getting ready for whatever the NDP do to us.
Stand by on that. More to come. What's your pitch?
I think we've been fortunate to have a robust candidate search process. Actually, in all 107 ridings, there is potential or willing candidates to run, but we want to make sure that the ridings have the opportunity to talk to as many people as possible, to be more reflective. You know, we have a large percentage of our caucus is women. We want to encourage more women to run. That means, you know, talking through, you know, most of the candidates who are willing to run for us or we seek out align with us in terms of principles and vision and so on. It's mostly about the logistics of it. We have to talk about how much time it will require, what does it mean in terms of work, what does it mean in terms of taking time off, how does family get affected, who's there to mentor, how much fundraising can we support. Those conversations take place, and to have equity-seeking groups, whether it's women or people of visible minority backgrounds and so on, it takes a little bit more time to convince them to run. So we have actually invested into a robust process to make sure that the ridings are supported to do that. So,
and how many candidates have you nominated so far?
Again,
is that really proprietary information?
It's not. But we aren't anywhere close to 97 because we want to make sure, even though we have candidates, if there's an election that's going to be called, we have people to run in all the ridings. But we want to make sure the riding associations have the time. And we actually look through the list from each riding association to see who they have talked to and what they have. And we also, a leader speaks to some people, I speak to some of the potential candidates.
Tell me this. What inducements do you offer people to run for a nomination?
Well, this is one of the fundamental differences between our party and I think the other three parties, which is we have fair, open, and democratic nomination processes where it's a very grassroots process.
Where does that come from?
Yeah.
That's where spin
spills
over into.
So you'll see a lot of people coming out and saying, you know what, I'm excited. I got my local community behind me. I want to sell memberships. I want to run a nomination battle. Get going. So all of that to say, we don't have to offer a lot of inducements to get people to come on board. They're motivated for the right reasons, which is they want to serve their community, they want to see a better Ontario, and they want to help facilitate that.
Okay, I hear that. But let me take you back to the last election campaign. You guys had a fairly high-profile announcement one day where you announced that Rocco Rossi, who was the former national director of the Federal Liberals, was coming over to run for the provincial Progressive Conservatives as their sort of star candidate in, I think, which riding was it? Was it Eglinton Lawrence riding?
Michael Coles.
Michael Coles riding, right. I don't know, but the public is probably under the assumption that you had to offer him some kind of inducement to do that. Like what?
I'm chair of this campaign, not the last one.
But you were on the bus for the last one, so you no doubt know and heard.
They don't. I'm focused on this campaign. I'm not going to talk about what happened in the last campaign.
Okay, well, since you won't answer, I'm going to have to go to somebody else who will speculate.
Okay, speculate.
Go ahead. Hypothetically, yes.
One could offer financial support. One could offer strategic support and manpower, and one could offer advice and organization and data.
Would you offer a cabinet seat?
No.
You never offer a cabinet seat? Run for our party and I can.
Time.
No, but clearly, clearly you are the government. And,
absolutely.
And clearly, if you want somebody out there who you perceive for whatever reason to be a star candidate and want them to run, you're in a position to offer something that nobody else is.
Yeah, but I don't think it's, look, this is partially an institutional but also a personal point of view. I actually don't think it makes sense to do that. I mean, people have to make the right decision to do it for the reasons that are right to them. And then I think what for people who are clearly of the caliber who you want to have in a cabinet, I think the answer to that, you're going to say, look, you are the kind of person who ought to be in cabinet if you can get elected, but you cannot and should not promise a cabinet spot.
Why not?
Because I don't think it's the right thing to do, because you're going to have to see the mix, the circumstance. There's lots of decisions to be made when and if you win. And you'll make it in the context of that environment and the needs you have at that point.
You've already got half your caucus in cabinet already, though. It's a little hard to squeeze
I think more than half, actually.
More than half, yeah, my mistake.
It's a, well, we took lessons from Stephen Harper on that one. And so, it's I think we're actually still smaller than Stephen Harper's cabinet. But I think, but you don't need to, I think the smart people who understand to, like, you're speaking to people about their future and their engagement. And I think what you really want to do is get their commitment to the process, the idea of engagement in politics and public life and a policy outcome. And it's not about being a cabinet minister, it's about being engaged in politics for the betterment of the province.
Okay, but Nathan, presumably there are some candidates out there that you look at and say, boy, wouldn't it be great if they ran for the NDP in the next election? Yeah. And so you take a meeting with that person. Yeah. And what do you say to try to induce them to come on board?
Like I said, it's about them seeing that we will support from the party side, we will support their campaign as much as possible. We would like all 107 ridings to have candidates who are cabinet type people. So we are not going to be promising each person whatever the cabinet, but we would like to make sure that we have the caliber of the people so that the people voting know that they're voting for a group of candidates who can actually govern. But it's most of the time it's about, we'll make sure the leader comes into the riding. We will make sure that we have resources put into the riding. We will make sure that we have training provided to your riding association folks, and we will make sure that there's a mentor. That form of support is what candidates are looking for. They've made a commitment on the principles and vision. They now need to get assurances that their campaign will be supported in whatever way, and their input will be taken into consideration. So one of the things we do is that we allow our candidates to have the main message that comes from the party, but also a local message that's not necessarily contradictory to what we're saying, but it actually caters to what the local residents are concerned about.
This is all now coming in a way like a funnel to where we want to get to, which is usually when people do what you do, you know when the end date is, right? And we've had mostly majority governments in Ontario for the last quarter century, so you could always point in the calendar and say, that's when the election is, and that's when we're going to aim everything. You don't know that now. So Ian, when you're trying to do all of the things that we've been talking about, how do you do them knowing that you don't know when the election is?
Yeah, the analogy I use, it's you're a dad. It's a little like when you have your first child. Somewhere between 7.5 months and 9 months, it's coming. You don't know the exact day, but you know at some point you need to be ready.
You don't even know that now. It could be spring, could be fall, could be next year.
It could be. But at the end of the day, we know one thing, which is we need to have a plan and a program to change the direction of this province. So we've spent a lot of time in the last year developing a plan to actually fix Ontario. We've reverse engineered by asking a very fundamental question, which is, what do we actually need to do to fix Ontario? The answer to that question is as relative today as it will be a year from now, depending on how much deeper the damage is that these two guys end up doing to the province.
You know what I could say? I just say,
and we were all getting along so well.
Yeah, I just say, I actually think Ontario is a pretty good place to live and grow and raise a kid. So I don't know what province he lives in, but it's not the same one the rest of us live in, I think.
With a debt that's doubled.
It's not, just to be clear.
We're going to get back on topic now, ladies and gentlemen.
What we also know, from a timing of the election point of view, is that the Conservatives decided that they don't care about governing, right? They're going to vote a government down no matter what. They want to go to the polls no matter, they just have decided they don't care about how the province is governed or the right answer. They're just going to vote against anything.
They don't care about how the province is
governed. Well, they're behaving that way in terms of how they vote. In terms of how they vote in the House.
Gentlemen, I'm going to stop this because this is off topic. I want to get back on the question of how do you do what you do when you don't know when the end date actually is?
Yeah, so basically you got to get mostly ready, right? I mean, obviously you're because you're living, as government, our first priority is governing well for Ontarians. But obviously we know we have to get the support of, we would have hoped one of the two others, but in this case only one other party. And so, but you have to prepare for the opportunity or for the likelihood that you can lose but the hope that you don't. So what you know though is because of that, there are points in the parliamentary calendar where that's likely to occur. More likely to occur than others. So one is the budget, right? So that's kind of a date you're working potentially towards where you'd prefer not to, but that's a cleavage point in terms of what the two other parties do. And
what's the next one after that?
Well, I don't know, actually. It's a good question. Depends a little bit on whether one of the two of these parties decide to move a non-confidence vote. It seemed a little odd if the NDP decided to support the government in a budget to then bring it down a few days afterwards. But, I've certainly seen less than rational decisions made by other parties in the past, so you just never know. But there are, so as I said, you kind of prepare for, the potential we could lose the confidence of the House in May, and then probably not till the fall, but you can't guarantee that. So you got to get mostly ready.
NDP support on budgets, though.
Once one election has ended, the next one has started. And so as soon as the election ends and people get a little bit of time to recover, Then we do the debrief, and we go over all the data and the results, and we look at the money, and oh, the Green Party's not in debt after this election. Isn't that wonderful? And we move forward with planning for the next campaign, and we establish our priorities. We help to understand our voter. What is our message? What is our strategy?
So
how are we going to build capacity?
October 2011, you started running for the next election.
Absolutely, we start planning for it. Yes.
Okay, Nathan, tell me this then. Again, going back to my example of you're trying to get people to run for you. How do you get somebody to say, I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to live off my savings, and I'm going to run, knock on doors for the next, how many days? I don't know. You want me to do this maybe for a week or 5 months or a year? Tough conversation?
Definitely, but I think the important part for us is that the party has been getting a lot of support in the last few years, and both federally as well as provincially. So we have candidates who are willing to run, who are willing to put the time, effort, and put their passion and dedication into the candidacy. So we are in a position where we can actually start to look at different candidates, and the ridings can decide who the best candidate is, instead of trying to put somebody whoever says yes.
Okay, let me follow up with this then. You saw Greg Lyle in the interview earlier, and we established the fact that Liberals will vote for the budget. You talked about these points that are coming down the pipe. Liberals will vote for the budget, Conservatives will vote against a budget, so it will come down to you. Your party will decide whether we have an election this spring or not.
Yep.
Have you made that decision yet?
Our party will decide based on what actions are being able to be delivered by the Liberal Party. For example, what we have been very clear is that we are not negotiating behind in closed doors. We have actually put forward whatever we are asking from the Liberal government this time, and it's all open to the public, and we've asked it very specifically. We don't want ambiguous, vague language. We don't want action 5 years down the road.
But once the budget comes down, will Andrea Horwath seek your advice on whether we should have an election?
Well, Andrea Horwath is part of the team. So it's not like she's seeking advice from me or me seeking advice from her. It's a team that will sit down and look at the options available to us. Like I said, we want to make this work. We are not in a rush to get an election happen that most Ontarians don't want. But if the Liberal government continues to act as if they're a majority with the arrogance that they had before, neglecting all the needs of the...
Would you say they are right now?
The conversations, I mean, because they have a new leader, they're trying to create a smoke screen that it looks like it's a new government technically. So we will give the benefit of the doubt to the Liberal government to see if they actually deliver on that. We did test it on the auto insurance 15% vote, and they voted along with
yes.
NDP. Yep. They said yes, but we are looking for more concrete language in the budget.
Let me go to Ian on this one. You saw Greg Lyle, your former comrade in arms from the Common Sense Revolution, say, I'd let time work for me. I'd let the Premier hang herself. In other words, he feels it would be in the best interests of the opposition, if they want to win, not to have an election now, but to leave Kathleen Wynne in office a little longer.
Yeah, sure. Two things on that. The problems Ontario faces are so severe that we can't allow Kathleen Wynne to stay in power for another year. The damage is going to be so severe that we're not going to be able to turn this province around. We've concluded that the only way to get Ontario back on the right track is to change the team that leads. I mean, every day that these guys are in power, we accumulate another $30 million on our debt interest payments. That's an expensive price to pay. I understand why Kathleen Wynne thinks it's a good thing to stay in power. But I don't think that's the right thing for Ontario. For the NDP, I mean, I'm very concerned that Andrea Horwath is going to miss her window of opportunity. We've seen in the public polling that Kathleen Wynne's starting to eat into her position as a left-leaning Liberal leader who doesn't recognize that there's a spending problem.
So you think the NDP should bring the government down on the budget?
I think Andrea Horwath is going to miss her window of opportunity.
It's not an electoral opportunity or the partisan opportunity. If we can deliver results for Ontarians and Ontarians see us delivering results, that's a victory for us, because we've been given, this has only been a year and a half. We want to make sure that we give another opportunity to the Liberal government to make things work for Ontario.
I get that. You've said that. Let me go to Tim here on this. Let me go to Tim. When Kathleen Wynne was in that chair, shortly after she won the leadership, I did ask her, when there is a sweet spot where, you haven't been in too long so that the barnacles haven't accumulated, but you haven't been in for too short a period of time so that no one knows who you are. And remember, these two leaders have run, actually Mike as well, have all had province-wide campaigns before. She's the rookie.
Absolutely.
Do you know where that sweet spot is?
Not really. I mean, obviously, that's one of the judgments you make in a campaign context. I mean, and it depends a bit on the circumstances of the other parties and the characteristics of your leader, and all of those other things are factors in it. I mean, you look historically, unquestionably, a leader serving after a long-standing leader has a challenge, right, to pick that sweet spot. So I agree with the analysis. The prescription's a little tougher to do. That being said, I'm very cheered by the fact that I've got these two fighting over whether or not to prop us up or bring it down because of what's best in our interest, although you always should take advice from the other parties in your interest with a little grain of salt. But I do think it's, what's interesting to me is I've heard sort of about the divisions inside both the Conservatives and the NDP around this issue. Well, I take some encouragement with that because it's actually driven a bit by fear of how well Kathleen's doing, and I think they're a bit surprised by that.
I know you'd all like to get back at that, but that's our time. I want to thank you all for coming on today. Thank you. It was your first time, you'll come on again. It was your first time, you'll come on again. You'll too, right? Yeah. There you go. So. Tim Murphy, the Liberal co-chair, was on our program today, along with Ian Robertson, the PC party chair, Nathan Shan, the NDP party co-chair, and Kathy Atchison, the GPO. Is that what they call it? The Green Party of Ontario? GPO, Election Readiness Chair. Thanks so much, everybody. It's great to see you all getting along so well.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.